All right. Here we go, back again with another episode here in the other side of the coin. I've got my man Johnathan, I've got my man Jay, and I've got my man Micele back here again. First of all, Micele, how are you, my man?
I'm good, thanks, and yourself, Miz?
Good, man. Good buzzing, man. This is going to be a good topic. Jay, you're looking sharp, brother. I really like that shirt.
Thanks. It's a little vintage number that I picked up quite a while ago, to be fair. But it's nice when it's kind of warm to just wear something that's not really too heavy. But I apologise if at any point in this recording you hear some faint girly screaming in the background. My girlfriend has literally just finished university as of 20 minutes ago, so they're all going to be celebrating downstairs. So I'm hibernating upstairs.
Wow. Yeah. So she's actually graduated. She's finished. She's graduated.
So she submitted her final piece today. Yeah. So she's done now.
That's
so
fantastic.
So she's
fantastic, man. Look, we're gonna be fine. I think if she makes any noise in the background, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Johnathan, how are you, my brother?
I don't have such exciting news, but nothing can be as bad as my son trying to walk in the other day. So you'll be fine, man. Fine.
Hey, I told you, next time, just have your son right beside you. I got some questions for him as well. All right, maybe he can tell us. He can help us out as well. All right, boys. Look, there's a lot of talk that's been happening in recent times about Ben Chilwell. Now, I find it funny because a few days ago, everyone was about Tagliafico. All of us, we even had a podcast about left backs, and we settled for Tagliafico. I even did a video on my, in this channel about Tagliafico. A lot of you guys have talked about Tagliafico. Many fans out there were talking about Tagliafico, and then the Athletic comes out and says Roman is looking for two marquee signings for Frank Lampard, and either the two or one of them or plus two more is definitely a primary target of Frank Lampard is Ben Chilwell. Now, since that news, which has probably happened about 48 hours ago, everyone's trying to sort of, say it in their mind, or trying to sort of, embrace the fact that it may be Chilwell. So let's really try and understand this and try and embrace this. So what I want to do in this episode is let's not try and embrace it straight away. Let's try and explore this whole thing and let's understand it, and then let's see where we end up going. So I'll go with Johnathan first up today. One of the things that everyone's been talking about lately is that one of the key factors about Ben Chilwell is Ashley Cole has been, stating, he stated in December, I think in 2019, saying that Ben Chilwell is a very, very good left back. He believes he can do well in this level, and he can go a lot further. And he said a whole heap of other very, very complimentary stuff about Ben Chilwell. What's your thoughts? I mean, do you think there are other left backs in this? Let's focus this league. Let's focus in Premier League. Do you reckon there are other better left backs in the Premier League? Or do you feel Ben Chilwell is probably the number one left back at the moment in the league, and that's probably why Ashley Cole's referring to him as someone who could do really, really well in Chelsea?
I think he's certainly one of the best left backs in the Premier League. He's English, he's young, and to quote Cole's comments, he said he'd love to see him here. He's a quality player. He heard he's a Chelsea fan, and he obviously enjoys the way that Brendan plays, so he thinks that he can transition into a bigger club like Chelsea. Now, yes, as I said, he's one of the best left backs. I think the fact that, as I said, he's English, that certainly helps. But for me, is he better? I think it's not just a comparison between Tagliafico and Telles and Chilwell. It's about whether the best left back in Chelsea's history, in the Premier League history, if someone like that is endorsing someone, and Jay said just before we started, if John Terry was endorsing a centre-back, we'd all be for it. So we've got to take Cole's comments, I think, quite seriously. And the rumours that have come out that saying Frank Lampard wants him, he's his number one target, I think we have to take it more seriously because there's some quite legitimate sources that are saying that. So for me, he's not top of my priority list because, and I think everyone will agree on this, is price. Now, I don't care about fees, as I've said before, but I think the less you can spend on a left back, the more you can spend in other areas. So I'm not for, against particularly. I think he's a very good player, and I've got some stats that I'll share later on. But yeah, certainly I think we've got to respect what Cole said because, as I said earlier, He's a fantastic left back, one of the best we've ever seen. So if he's watched him, he's now a coach at Chelsea. So I trust the words that he said. So, yeah, very interesting to see what happens.
Oh, fair enough. Micele, I'll go straight to you. Let's take the money aside, because I think sometimes money clouds our thought process as to do we need the player or not, or are they worthy enough or not. So let's forget the money factor, okay? Is Ben Chilwell good enough to be Chelsea's long-term left back?
Well, I'm glad you used the word long-term because, I mean, considering that he's still only 23, of course, he has the potential to be our long-term option as opposed to a Tagliafico or Alex Telles, who are already in their late 20s and are maybe a 3-4 year kind of deal. So I think he definitely has the potential to be a long-term option. Is he the best? If he walked into Chelsea right now, would he be the best left back? Arguably, maybe. I think obviously we've got people like Alonso who are already better in the attacking phase. Emerson might be maybe better defensively. I'm not really too sure. That would be definitely a solid argument. And if you take money out of it, I think it is a good deal. I mean, like Johnathan said, if Ashley Cole, who's arguably the best left back of all time with Roberto Carlos, like how can you not? Why would you turn that down? Especially if Ashley Cole did say, which I think he did say, that it's a player that he wants to work with and improve. So if we are taking money out of the equation, then I'd be all for it, really.
No, fair enough as well. Both yourself and Johnathan definitely, playing the Ashley Cole card nicely there. I want to go straight to Jay on this. I want to twist this around because I can't have everyone talk about Ashley Cole. I get it. He's a legend. He's a legendary left back. But yeah, Jay, we've seen Ashley Cole, right? I mean, he's a phenomenal left back. Now, I get it. He's saying these sort of things about Ben Chilwell, but when I look at Ben Chilwell, honestly, I don't see too many attributes that even match that Ashley Cole sort of caliber. Like if Ashley Cole's looking at this player and going, he's going to be so good, he would have seen some. I feel he would have seen some sort of facets of himself in Ben Chilwell to say, you know what, this guy's going to be something. Now, what's your thoughts? What's going through Ashley's mind to say Ben's got something that we can develop into a phenomenal left back?
I think firstly, physical stature. I think Ashley Cole and Ben Chilwell aren't that dissimilar in terms of the way they actually look on the pitch. I think they're similar physical build. I think early international experience. I think that's something that Cole had, and it's something that that Chilwell has because he's England's starting left back, right? And he's 23, which is something that's really important. He's at a progressive side under a progressive manager. At such a young age and playing regular football. And that was something when we've spoken about Rice, not on recordings, for example, where I've said, Rice is a good player and he's benefited from having 3 seasons of first team football in a top league. And Chilwell's been the exact same, just at a better team. He knows how to play a fast-paced game. He's defensively astute. I think Leicester have 3rd or 4th most clean sheets this season.
Yep.
And I think all those things would, in my mind, I would think Ashley Cole would tick all those little boxes and think, this is great, I've got something here. My only concern is that Ashley Cole is, I think he probably is one of the greatest 5, maybe top 5 left backs of all time.
Yeah,
I couldn't,
for sure.
I think that'd be hard to not include him in there. But he wasn't the most attacking player. And I would trust in Ashley to be able to defensively improve young players massively. And if Chilwell was perhaps slightly more attacking, I would maybe be more comfortable with the move just because I think Ashley could improve the defensive area whilst Chilwell can adapt to that attacking role as the team sort of progresses in its sort of unified sort of forward progression. But I think that Chilwell, if he were to play with exciting, more dynamic attacking players, because Leicester do have those, but they actually don't have too many of them. They've got Harvey Barnes, who's brilliant. I really like Harvey Barnes. They got Maddison. They got Maddison, who does an exceptional amount of chance creation. It's one of the highest in Europe. Ndidi is defensive powerhouse. Tielemans runs the midfield, but he's not actually the most attacking player. He's a standard central midfield player. He's very good. And then Vardy, who's had to change his game to limit himself to around 15 touches per match, just because he doesn't really have the longevity to be sprinting around for 90 minutes. So Brendan Rodgers has had to change up the way that he's played a bit. So I think if Chilwell were in the side that has, Ziyech and Pulisic and Mount and Hudson-Odoi and Tammy and whoever else we bring in, and even the midfielders, if he can combine with Jorginho, Kovacic, Gilmore, Ruben, that to me seems like a place where he would naturally improve his attacking output because of the quality of players that he will develop with over a few years. And I think then by the time he's maybe 25, 26 and the rest of the squad have more developed, I think he would be or could be a very key component to that, because he is very good defensively, and that's something we've lacked in our left backs, apart from Emerson for the first third of the season, maybe less.
Yeah, look, you know what? I think, and I want to go back to Johnathan on this now. I think that's what Jay just said to me. Is he's articulated what I've been thinking. I haven't been able to sort of express it out completely about Ben Chilwell. I feel like there's a particular factor for me that's missing about Ben Chilwell, which is not making me overly excited about him. Like, yeah, okay, if we end up getting him, fine, he'll do a job, but it's not something that, like, for example, Telles, his attacking prowess is just so phenomenal. The goals, assists, crosses, whipping crosses, free kicks, he's just so attacking. Yes, there could be times where he'll get caught in the defense, but there's something you can tell about Telles that, okay, he does that thing really well. When you think about Tagliafico, defensively he's strong. He's not that bad going forward as well. He's played for a team like Ajax who loves playing possession style football, beautiful football. So there's a lot to praise about that as well. Do you feel Chilwell right now, when you look at him, can you actually say, yeah, that's one thing that he does so well and I really, really like it, and that's probably why I want him? Like, can you sort of knuckle one thing about him and go, yeah, that's why I want him?
Not particularly. I've watched more of England in the last few years, as probably most of us have, because of Southgate coming in and kind of changing up the way we view English football or the national team. But when I watch him, he doesn't excite me that much. But does that bother me? Because left backs and right backs are now some of the most talked about players in the team. You talk about the Premier League, the best team in England have got some fantastic wing backs that go forward constantly. But I mean, talking about a standout point, I looked at 9 different aspects of statistics between Chilwell, Tagliafico, and Telles. League only, different leagues, so it's very difficult to compare. But the only thing that Chilwell was better at, let's say, is aerial duels won, and that was only just over Tagliafico. I mean, you look at shots, tackles, interceptions, how many times he's dribbled past, crosses, key passes, goals, assists, everything. Other than aerials, he was less compared to Tagliafico and Telles. But as I said, it's different leagues. It's very hard to compare. So, yeah, when I watch Chilwell, I don't go, he's the most offensive left back. He's the most attacking left back. He's kind of in between for me. But I think the fact that Rodgers was schooled at Chelsea, he's a youth coach at Chelsea. He plays some good football. He has very high intensity pressing football as well. That is, I wouldn't say it's the same as Lampard's, but in terms of the intensity, it will be an easy transition for Chilwell to come into Lampard's side. So I just think it's not a bad signing, but and we said this on the last discussion we had, it all depends on what they think is going on with Micele. If they feel that in a few years' time he's going to be the best left back and better than Chilwell, then you don't get Chilwell. You get someone else that's 27, 28 that transitions in. So I think it all depends on what their view is long term. If Lampard thinks that Chilwell will be our left back for 10 years or 7, 8 years, then get him, back the manager. And we haven't had that enough as Chelsea fans. We haven't had Abramovich come out and back back their manager enough. And if that is the solution that Lampard feels is correct, then we have to, go with it. We have to trust it, because Lampard's done fairly decent so far. So it's not about what us fans want. It's about what Lampard and the board want. So I'm happy to trust in the process, to be honest.
Nah, fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather have Frank get his players so that he can be judged on his players, as opposed to the board throwing players at him that he probably didn't want. Micele, I want to ask you a question where, I want to revisit when we played Man City and Emerson was destroyed by Mahrez. He was just taken to cleaners. Similar thing happened to Ben Chilwell when Mahrez was against him. Absolutely took him to cleaners. Now, let's assume we were to get Ben Chilwell next season. Would you be confident going into every match against the top teams and go, yep, I'm so confident with Ben Chilwell that he's going to be able to lock down their wingers. I've got no issues. Or are you going to be in that sense where, I don't really know here what's going to happen? Yes, he may be a little bit better than Emerson, but I'm not entirely sure. What's your stance in regards to that?
Well, I actually didn't manage to catch most of that Man City game against Chelsea because I was at the airport flying to London. But I did catch some of it, and it was a bit of a disaster class. And just to touch on your question, I wouldn't feel comfortable with any of our defenders against the top three teams, really. I mean, I love Reece James to bits, but I mean, we've seen him get torn to shreds against Aaron Cresswell at West Ham. I was unfortunately at that game as well. So,
lucky guy.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with any of our defenders. So, but do I feel more comfortable with him on the pitch than an Emerson or Alonso? I would say maybe, just because of what we have touched on, that he would be Frank Lampard signing and the board signing. He's not just a random player that they've just thrown at him and said, come, we've got this player, work with him now, like they have done with players in the past, like a Batshuayi, where they just went out and bought him and just threw him at Conte and said, well, here's a player, do something with him. So the fact that he is a Lampard signing, a Lampard target, that does give me much more confidence. But I mean, like I said, none of our defenders at the moment give me much confidence at all. But in the future, I think Reece James, Tomori, Zuma, Christensen, Chilwell, I think they all have like serious potential on them. So I wouldn't rule it out.
So you reckon for you, it's more of a defensive issue, or like your sort of, what I'm understanding is it could be anyone in the back at the moment, and you just wouldn't feel comfortable because there seems to be some fundamental issues in defense.
Honestly, the only left back who could come in and really settle our defense would probably be Andy Robertson. I mean, none of these are realistic. These are just actual players. So probably like an Andy Robertson and maybe Tagliafico. I mean, I haven't seen too much of him, but from what I have seen, he's defensively amazing. So, I mean, those are the only two players that really come to mind that could make a significant difference.
Yeah, fair enough. Jay, I want to, before we talk about the whole price issue, I want to keep exploring this about Ben Chilwell and what we currently have. We've seen Emerson, and you've mentioned that the first third of the season, he was really good. Like I've even said it in our last podcast group discussion that I feel after Robertson, he was probably the best left back during that period where he was just shining. Now, you have seen that period as well, and he was really good. Do you feel, if we were to say that's the peak of Emerson, let's say that's him at his peak, do you think that peak is better than the peak of Chilwell that we've seen so far?
I think you'd have to say probably, because his stats stood out above all the others. But again, it's a tough question to answer because Emerson is older, slightly more experienced than Chilwell. They are different players. Emerson's going to drive and dribble more so, and that's something that will get the fans off their seats, and that's something that everyone enjoys watching, especially in the last 10-15 years with, Roberto Carlos did it, but you had Dani Alves do it, and then other players sort of gradually build into that role of being a much more attacking and much more flair-based option from wing-back. And, Emerson showed sort of glimpses of that. But it's a tough one because You could argue that last season Emerson's best performance was better than Chilwell's best performance.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
Chilwell's consistency over the season makes him
trumps
a better
that.
player,
Yeah.
and that trumps it. And you can't, in my opinion, you can't argue with that. I think Chilwell this season has maybe been the third best left back in the Premier League. I think Robertson's the best left back in the world. I think you only find people who have recently watched Alphonso Davies argue with it, and that's not a fair comparison because Robertson is, Robertson is standing out in a Liverpool team that's so good. And he's done it consistently for longer than Davies, and and I think that's just how it is. But I think also Lucas Digne from Everton is someone that maybe doesn't get the plaudits he deserves because he's absolutely fantastic. And
I just don't like him defensively sometimes. Look at Dean, like I feel
that's Everton as well, and they've under Ancelotti they've looked much more different. But with their previous management, they have looked shaky, and that's something to bear in mind. But I think Digne is a really good player as well. And then you have Chilwell, and I said to you before this recording actually that I had a question about Chilwell, and I wasn't sure. Do you think that in a Leicester side that this season has maybe taken the league by surprise as to their league position? I mean, no one's really surprised at how good Vardy is because, quite frankly, he probably is a world-class striker, and I don't think he maybe gets the plaudits he should there. But do you think Chilwell perhaps gets slightly forgotten about or overlooked because of how good sort of Tielemans has been, how good Ndidi's been, Soyuncu at the back, he's been very good. Vardy's obviously been banging in the goals. Harvey Barnes has been great. So Chilwell kind of falls lower in the pecking order. Even Schmeichel has had a great season. So do you think maybe we're underestimating how good Chilwell's been purely because the other players have been so standout? Because Leicester still have 10 clean sheets. They are third. They are in a Champions League spot. They have been defensively sound, and it's not just Soyuncu. It's not just Pereira. Chilwell. Is Chilwell not standing out because he's not good enough, or is he doing his job quietly and effectively? That goes to anyone.
Do you want me to take that, or Johnathan, you want to have a crack at that? Or we can all have a crack at that. I think this is a fantastic question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. I'm happy to start. I think Pereira is, the more all-round right back in my. I just think Pereira gets a lot more plaudits, so I think he does take a bit of the shine off. Your Vardy, your Maddisons, Tielemans and your Barnes, etc. I think it does a little bit. And the focal point of the Leicester team isn't their left and right back as much as they do, help the team play the way they want to. I think Vardy, the way he constantly just seems to reinvent himself and keep getting goals. And obviously Maddison being young and English, it does take the shine off. I agree. So, very, very good question. But they're third place for a reason because they play as a team, and Chilwell is a massive part of that. So, very good question. I'll let you two decipher that as
Micele,
well.
I'll let you have a crack before I have a go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Johnathan said, it is a fantastic question, and I think Jay is completely right. I get, when a team plays with such fluidity, that some players do kind of go missing, and it kind of reminds me of a Jordan Henderson kind of ordeal. When you watch Liverpool, you barely notice he's even on the pitch because it's just so fluid that play just flows straight through him. And obviously they've got a lot more flashy players, and obviously that's what catches your eye. But he's just like a no-nonsense kind of player. He just gets his job done. He's not here to do anything else. And I get those kind of vibes from Chilwell as well. So does he get the job done? Not always. But I mean, when he does, we can see how effective it has been. Like in that Southampton game where I think he got a hat-trick of assists in that 9-0 win. And he got another hat-trick of assists against Macedonia or Moldova, or it was one of them in that 5-0 win or 5-2 win. So, I mean, I think it's a great question. And
Jay, after listening to what you said initially about how Chilwell has been consistent, right? I think it's a very good point to understand here. You said Emerson's best is probably better than Chilwell's best. I think we need to understand that first. That Emerson, who hasn't really been good he's only been good part of the season. It hasn't been good for the remainder of the season, but even his best is better than Chilwell's best. So we need to understand that, number one. Number two, what you were saying is Chilwell's been more consistent. I think that's important. I think Frank is probably going for consistency. He probably doesn't need someone who's great one every 5 matches or one every 10 matches. He needs someone who's at least consistent for 10 matches so that, he doesn't want all flair. He doesn't want all errors either. He just wants someone who can just tie that end down. And I think that's where we are at the moment in this building phase. So to answer your question, yes, you're right. There are all other flashy players in Leicester, but he just does the things that he needs to do quietly. So he doesn't need to be flashy. He doesn't need to be, bombing up like Robertson in Liverpool, because that would then tip away the balance. At the moment, they've got this balance. So that's why it works with them, with the likes of Vardy and Maddison and Harvey Barnes. I reckon if Harvey Barnes wasn't that attacking, then you would have to have Chilwell, carry out that attack. Someone would need to, make up for that. So it's a team. So for me, I guess that's probably a reason, yes, because they've had a whole heap of other good players, and that's probably why he doesn't get seen too much, because Brendan might have just said to him that you just do your part. As I said, had there been no Harvey Barnes, I'm pretty sure Brendan would have said, hey, go out there and express yourself a little bit more, go out there and really make those overlapping runs, and maybe we could see a bit more. And I think that's probably what, now I'm starting to think, maybe that's probably what Ashley Cole sees in him, that he could get that out of him.
I think so. And also you notice, and Micele's point was actually was really good then, was when Leicester beat Southampton 9-0, Chilwell gets a hat-trick of assists. And that England game, I don't know who it was against, but he got another hat-trick of assists. Now, despite how good Leicester have been, they are not a club the size of Chelsea, and Chelsea have the power to keep players. Now, Leicester do have that, but they will sell. Their players will get picked. Tielemans will get picked. Ndidi will get picked. Maddison's going to go. How do you replace Vardy? It's a great project, and to be a Leicester fan right now would be amazing, and it's really exciting for them because it's such a lovely club. But it doesn't seem to me like a long-term project, that's because the vultures will circle, and that will happen less at Chelsea. And also, over the next few seasons, you can see Chelsea becoming more and more attacking, more dynamic, more straight to the point. When the side is playing in a really attacking manner, like when Leicester are dismantling Southampton, Chilwell is right in amongst it. He is contributing. He just plays in a system which is very structurally sound and rigid at Leicester. Yeah. And if he was given perhaps more attacking license, and when he has those games where he is given it, he clearly can. He has a very good end product. You just rarely see it because he's busy working with Ndidi and Soyuncu to make sure that part of the pitch you can't get through. But when he is given a bit of attacking license, he does have a decent end product, and maybe that can be worked on as well.
No, I think it's starting to. That was a really good question. I think that opened my mind up as well. That maybe that's probably why Chelsea's seen that part of him, where they've seen the consistency of Ben Chilwell.
Quite frankly, all the fans want is consistency in defence, because we know that the attack will click into place over the next season, 2 seasons. We can see the midfield buzzing around. We can see Gilmore getting more and more minutes. We can see everything just slotting into place. And what you need is defensive solidity and consistency. And Micele is right that no one's that confident with a defence. Reece James is great going forward. I have full confidence that he'll put a good ball in 8 times out of 10. But he does get spun sometimes. He does get caught out of position, and Chilwell, that happens rarely. You know what? If you have a bad game against Mahrez, it's not that embarrassing. He's one of the best wingers in the world. He's underrated slightly, in my opinion. He's extremely skillful, has fantastic end product, and that happens to young players. And Chilwell is a young player still. He is only 23, and I think to go for consistency and defensive solidity and build on that is why Lampard and Cole might have singled him out. Plus, there already is. I know it's maybe not the most important, but there is existing chemistry there because of the national side, because of youth team football as well. All those things really do have an impact. Tagliafico is a great player, had a great Champions League run, but he plays for the best team in the league, and the league is poor. Telles plays for one of the best two teams in the league, and the league is poor. And my concern, and I don't know, this might be another question. I feel bad that I feel like I'm sort of hosting now.
No. This is good, though. This is good. It's opening up all our minds.
Do you three ever worry that why has Telles and why have Chilwell and Tagliafico not been taken sooner? Why have they not gone to bigger teams sooner if they're this good? Why have they not been taken on board?
I'm going to touch on a few points. The question you've just asked, Telles and Tagliafico, why have they not been taken earlier? Very, very good question. I think people still do look down on the leagues. I think there is unfortunately a case of that. And as I say, that's why I think the stats are really difficult. Very, very interesting to know because they statistically, they both look fantastic. Maybe in terms of the play, Tagliafico's only been there for a couple of years now, 2.5 years or whatever. So maybe Ajax, because they were doing so well, they got to Champions League semi-finals. He was. Maybe there were talks about him leaving, but that never kind of came to fruition. And Telles, best left back in the Portuguese league because of his output going forward. Maybe he's comfortable there. So it's a very good question. But I think to touch on your other points about consistency and about left backs and right backs of a whole, the last 10 to 15 years, everyone wants an attacking right back, an attacking left back that bombs forward, that gets involved in the play. Now, I played up front when I was a kid, and I switched to right back at about 12, 13 because I was so quick. And my manager wanted me to be up and down that pitch. And I was constantly scoring, getting assists, putting crosses in, and everyone was loving it. But defensively, I could get back because of my pace, but I did get caught out, and my centre back and my DM had to cover me, and everyone knew that because I was always going to put the output going forward. So that was, I say, 15 years ago, and now that's all we want to see. People don't really care whether a left back and right back are sound defensively, and I think we just need to get back to basics a little bit. I don't care if my left back and right back don't get any goals and assists in the season, as long as they are taking their defensive responsibilities. They're taking care of them. I think because of the consistency over the years, if you look at Chelsea's best left back and right backs, Ashley Cole, Azpilicueta, Ivanovic, did you always know that they were playing? No. Is that a bad thing? No. It's only because of the recent obsession we're going forward that we want your Alexander-Arnolds and your Robertsons to get your assists and goals. We don't have to have that. It's a great thing to have, but, and I've said this in the part of the centre-back discussion, we need to sort our defence out first. And if we, whilst I've liked Telles, the thought of him in the past going forward, and I think he's okay defensively, is it a bad thing to have someone that is thinking about what's going on behind him than going forward? No, it's not a bad thing at all, because we need to sort out our defence first. So a couple of great questions, and I think consistency is the key. I'd rather have a 6, 7, 8 out of 10 a week than 10, 4, like that. That is not going to help us, because that 4 could be in a big Champions League game, Man City, Liverpool, Man United game, and that's what I can't. You want your players to be up for every game. I'm not saying they wouldn't be, but you need the big players to stand out in the big games. And our current crop of players didn't always rise to the occasion. So yeah, I think Chilwell, he comes into the conversation a little bit more when you open it up. And it's as we said, great. It's a great way of thinking, Jay. So I'll let you go off of that.
Micele, what do you think? Why do you think Telles and Tagliafico haven't been picked up yet?
I've got one hypothesis as for Telles, and that would be, I don't know if you remember, but Porto had a fantastic Champions League run about 5 years ago, where they had Danilo at right back and Alexandro at left back, and they just took Europe by storm, really. And they were both picked up that season. And they were both picked up that transfer window. Danilo went to Real Madrid, and he was a disaster there, really. Alexandro went to Juventus, and he's been pretty good, but he's not so great anymore. So, and I remember, I think Tifu made a video about this, Tifu Football, the YouTube channel, that clubs are kind of off taking fullbacks from Porto just because of this. Like, they were fantastic in the Portuguese league and great in the Champions League. But then as soon as they made that step up, they just completely bombed, except for Sandro, really. And also for Tagliafico, it's a great argument that can be made if a player has not been picked out of the Eredivisie at the age of 21 or under. And it was a good argument for Ziyech, but I think in his case, it was more down to his personality and work rate as to why he hadn't left the league at a younger age, and he kind of came into football a bit later in life as well. And I think, I don't know, I'm quoting everyone right now, but Alex Goldberg's video yesterday, he also said that he was touching on this stuff, and he said that the reason why Chilwell is so attractive is that it's an in-league purchase.
Yeah.
And like how we touched on with Mahrez, he's been burned by Mahrez, but not whilst playing for Chelsea. So he's getting skinned by all of these great wingers, but it's not to our fault. So he's learning, he's improving his game, and it's doing no harm to Chelsea, but he'll arrive to Chelsea as a better player.
Yeah, no, fair point. I'll probably touch on this right at the end. I want to get into this Chilwell discussion again. Let's talk about the money now. I'll go with Johnathan first up. We've talked about how consistent he is, and he can do a job, and when he comes into Chelsea, perhaps with a better team, he can improve his attacking abilities as well. His last I saw some insane price. I think someone stated yesterday for 85 million. I'm not even sure if that's even true, but generally the price has been quoted around somewhere between 50 to 60 million pounds. Now, I know your standpoint here. You've said a few times, you sometimes like me as well, where, it's not our money. If Chelsea's willing to pay that, that's fine. But for a second, just think about, we have a budget. There's a centre back to get, and so on and so forth. Do you feel that's a wise amount of money if we were to pay, the high end of 60 million, let's say, for someone like Chilwell, who's, as you said, you can't really pinpoint any particular thing that excites you at the moment?
Yeah, it's not ideal to spend 60 million on a left back at all. And yes, if we've been talked about these two marquee signings that Chelsea are playing, and if Chilwell was one of them marquee signings, which he could well be at that price, is that ideal for Chelsea? Maybe not. But if it is a Lampard signing, and if he's going to come in and have the right training and the right, if he's going to slot into our way of play, then I don't mind it. But it all depends, as you say, on whether we have a strict budget. And if you had Tagliafico and Telles in, or any left back in the Premier League, playing for someone like Leicester, their price goes up because they don't have to sell. They're in third place. They're going to get Champions League next season. So Chilwell's got a reason to stay. Vardy didn't move because of affiliation. Okay, Mahrez went in the past. But I just think if Chilwell isn't bothered about leaving, and Leicester don't have to sell, they can ask for whatever they want. It's whether Chelsea want to pay it. So really difficult to say whether he's worth it. These sums of money that we talk about are ridiculous, but I just think it all goes down to, if we really want him, you just pay whatever, unfortunately, to get the player. So yeah, it really does depend on the other facets of the team. If we can strengthen in different places, if that 60 million is going to stop us from buying another player, that's the thing. We don't know these discussions, so it's only something we can, discuss externally.
Micele, I want to spice this up a little bit. I want to say, let's say it is 60 million that Leicester, wants, because I can't really imagine Leicester trying to settle for anything less, because they're in a position where Johnathan's saying that they're going to get Champions League most likely next season. They've got a good little project that's happening, as Jay was mentioning. Their fans are excited. It's a good time to be a Leicester fan at the moment. So many good things happening. So let's say it is 60 million. And it comes to the wages now. I know we've recently had a lot of wages issues, dramas with what Tammy wants and, what's Cho's on and whatnot. I feel Chilwell will be a player that's not going to settle for less either. He's going to come in and go, okay, well, you want me. You want me to be a premier left back. You're willing to sell either one of Alonso or Emerson. You're willing to bring me in and make me one of your marquee signings. I hear your player Tammy Abraham's asking for 180,000 a week. Well, I want somewhere around 150,000 as well. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be the next, big thing, big left back for Chelsea, where does that all sit in with you when it's sort of 60 million, 150,000? We've all talked about amortization and how these sort of things can rack up and be a monstrous amount of money. How do you feel when all of that sort of packages, and then you get someone like Chilwell, where he's not the finished product that Chelsea kind of needs now, I feel?
Well, to start off, let me just say that if I had the choice, I actually wouldn't buy Chilwell this transfer window. I'll let him stay at Leicester.
This is going to get retweeted, boys. This is going to get retweeted. This is right here,
So-
Micele. Remember.
Okay. So I personally, I wouldn't buy him. I'll let him stay at Leicester for now. He's getting Champions League experience. So, like I said earlier, he's getting exposed to world-class wingers, and it's not to Chelsea's deficit. And then we can test him. We've seen what he can do in the Premier League. Now we can see what he'll do in Europe. And so, yeah, we have a better understanding of what the player is capable of. And just to touch on the whole amortization thing, I think this was in the Bylines podcast with, was it Nini, Mod, and Vince?
And Vince, yeah.
Where they were talking about Dembele. And Alex was saying that, like, obviously these players want high wages, like 150,000, 180,000. If Tammy Abraham's on 180,000, then why would Dembele ask for any less? But these agents and these players understand amortization. They know what it means. So because the club is going to be paying 11 million for you over the next 4 years for your contract and then still paying you wages, they can't afford to give you 150,000, regardless if you're going to be our starting left back or our second left back. So that's obviously something that they do take into account. I mean, I'd like to think footballers aren't so irrational that they do just come to a club and they're like, okay, well, I mean, Hudson-Odoi's played like 20 Premier League games and he's on 130, so why should I take any less? But they do take into account that they just did make a £60 million move, or however much it's going to be. I hope it's nowhere near that. But then also, just touching back on what I did, the problem with not getting him this season is that I'd almost be worried to not buy him next season as well. Because with the Euros being postponed to next season, I mean, if he has a great run with Leicester in the Champions League, Premier League, and then he has a fantastic Euros, you best believe the 85 million price is going to look pretty decent compared to the performances he might put in. So, yeah, it's just a card game, really. So I would definitely be more... I'd definitely be more for getting someone like a Tagliafico now, just as like a little stop, like just stop the issue that we have currently, and then we'll work on a future plan.
Yeah, fair enough. Jay, with what Athletic said recently about the two marquee signings, and the way I read it was two marquee signings, and one of them is possibly left Chilwell. I don't know whether it was Chilwell and then two more marquee signings. I'm not sure if that's how. So I want to get that clarification from you as well. How do you read that? But let's just assume that it's two, and one of them is Chilwell out of the two. How do you feel that we could possibly enter next season without a centre back, which is probably a issue? You know, I feel it's a bit of an issue. Do you feel spending that type of money on Chilwell, let's say 60 million, which is probably what it's going to be, around 50 to 60 million, do you feel it's okay to move in next season without with possibly Rudiger, Tomori, Zuma, Christensen, and Chilwell?
I think it's really important to remember as well how much money Chelsea do have in the bank. I mean, quite frankly, I would rather spend 60, and I've got hindsight benefit now, really, but I'd rather spend 60 mil on Chilwell than I would on Morata, and we're going to get 60 mil from Morata. So
yeah, fair enough.
If you put it to fans as in we've essentially sold Morata to buy Chilwell, no one's going to complain that much. Micele's spot on. If he has a good Euros, his price is going to increase exponentially, massively. And it's already very high. And you know what? The chances of England having a good Euros are quite high. Because the England team is really good. It's possibly the best England team I've seen. And I say that because it's coherent. The Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes team was less coherent. I think if he were to be a marquee signing, it's not just for our benefit. It's also if it also makes teams around us weaker. It makes the team that is directly above us less good. We take one of their better players, put them in our team. They will struggle to replace him because he's grown into that system and he's got the experience in the Premier League. Now they might be able to find a replacement, but will he be as good? We don't know. If he were to help us, if we had Chilwell and finished third, and then we got to a Champions League quarterfinal, possibly a semi-final at a push, the money that's coming in is massive. It's massive. You wouldn't even really notice. Like even teams that get relegated or the teams that get promoted get around 100 million. That's So there's Chilwell there plus an extra 40 million if you were to buy Chilwell at 60. So I think the finances, it's hard because as fans, and do you know what? The majority, the vast majority of all football fans do not earn 100 grand a week, do not earn 180 grand a week. So we know that money is obscene. But in the game that they play and in the world that they live in, it's not obscene money. It's just the way that the game is played. It's just the way that it is. And I think we'll have more Hazard money coming back. We're going to have the Morata money coming back. We can sell Drinkwater. We can sell Bakayoko, who has had a good season.
We've just sold Pasalic as well.
There you go. Pasalic, 15 million. Yeah. And these little things all add up. Bakayoko can go for 25 to 30 on the continent, no problem. AC Milan, Sevilla interested. Drinkwater can go for 10 million. At a push, I would probably give him away because I think he's rubbish and I don't like his attitude.
For free.
Yeah, he can go. You'll get for either of the left backs, you can get between 15 and 25 million, I think, depending on which one you sell. And then if you were to sell Bakayoko and Emerson and buy Chilwell with that money, no one's going to complain. Yeah. It's just about how you frame the way of getting these finances in order. Because if you say to fans, "Oh, we're spending 60, 70 million on Chilwell," they're going to be like, "What on earth are you doing?" But if you say to the fans, "We've sold Bakayoko and Emerson to buy Chilwell," chances are people aren't really going to complain as much. So it's just a narrative and it's a way that it's framed. And Chelsea sometimes don't get the nicest ride in the media, and I think for some issues that's fair enough. But for people to be tricked into, "Oh, you're spending 70 million on a left back that plays for Leicester," but when actually we sold Morata, who was not great for us, for 60 million. We're going to sell Bakayoko, Drinkwater. We're going to sell another left back. Chances are someone else is going to go. Plus the 100 whatever we got for Hazard, plus the money you get for getting into Champions League if we can do it. Then you're looking at close to 400 million. So 60 million on a left back is not that much.
Really nothing.
In comparison to how decent the club's finances are looking. In the scheme of how a left back, in the grand scheme of the price of left backs, especially for what he is, it is expensive. But
hold that thought for a moment, Jay. Johnathan, what were you saying?
I was going to say, well, spot on with what Jay said. I mean, Kyle Walker got bought by Man City in 2017. They won two league titles. I'm not saying he's the only reason why, but he was a very good reason. Yeah. So, I mean, look at Benjamin Mendy. Price for any player is just going up ridiculously now. So I'm desensitized to the fact that of transfer fees, whatever happens. And I think two other players that we sold at Batshuayi and Barkley, so we sold them as well.
Barkley's going to stay.
Hey, watch out for Barkley, right? Barkley's my man. Okay? We are not talking poorly about Barkley in this channel.
Trigger.
No, Barkley's got the Hazard trim now as well. He's going nowhere.
Exactly. He's starting. When Premier League starts, he's starting. He's my number 8. So
it's technically pre-season again. We all know what happens.
Oh, pre-season Barkley, baby. Yeah. I want to throw a question out to all you guys. I'm not really entirely sure about this one. If we end up buying Chilwell, let's say at 60 million, would he be the most expensive left back in the Premier League?
Yeah.
He would?
I think he'd be in the world even, maybe.
I think Liverpool paid around... They paid pennies for Robertson because
they paid like 8 million for Robertson.
They paid like 8 million or something for Robertson, or 8, something like that. Yeah.
I think Mendy's the most expensive at like 35 million or something.
Yeah,
No,
And
no,
it should have
Mendy,
been before
So
you.
Chilwell would actually blast this. Like this is not even in the.
He'd be above Walker, and I think Walker's the most expensive.
Yeah, Walker was 50.
Yeah, but left back.
Left
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
left back.
Oh, left back. Okay, yeah. I think I'm just.
I know
I'm
Walker
quickly
costs
having
more
a
than some
little-
countries' actual defense forces.
I'll just have a little
Crazy.
Google for you there.
But what-
Benjamin
what-
Mendy, 52 million.
Don't talk down
Benjamin
about
Mendy.
Bangladesh. Oh,
Yeah,
Ben, how much?
Mendy was 52 million apparently, and that's going by Sport Bible. So he'd be just more
52
expensive.
million pounds.
Yeah, and he's a left back. So that's
Jeez.
why, yeah, Wan-Bissaka,
Wow.
Walker, 50 million right back. So, I mean, it's your 50s are your upper echelons. I mean, Lucas Hernandez for Bayern Munich, 70 million, but he's more of a centre back than a left back. Even though
Yeah,
he does
he's
play
been,
left back.
he's
So,
been moved into centre back, isn't he? Yeah.
yeah, so
Let's say Chilwell becomes the most highest left back in the Premier League or in the world. Let's say. I'll go with Micele first up here. Do you feel? And we've seen it, man. We've seen it this season with Kepa, how much he copped it because of how expensive he is, and some parts of the fan base say, "Oh, just wait. He's young. He's also 23, or I think he's 23.
It's 25.
Or 25, yeah.
He's getting on now.
He's
Getting
old now. He needs the walking stick. So yeah, like there's one group that's saying, look, he's got ages as a keeper. You can play along for a long time. And then there's another group that, oh man, he's rubbish. He's always been rubbish. So someone like Chilwell, when he gets that tag of being world's expensive left back, and if he has blunders, let's say, and he's young, he could have blunders. Our fan base, man. You know how crazy we are. So how do you think that would impact on someone like Chilwell, who's in a particular fan base right now that are so nice to him? Even though I've heard a few people say even Leicester fans don't like him. I don't know whether
Yeah, he went through quite a dodgy spell mid this season where some fans kind of turned on him. But also, if a player is ready to make the transition to a big club, you just have to hope that they do have the mentality to make it at that big club. I mean, I'm pretty sure Chilwell just doesn't expect it to be all sunshine and rainbows at Chelsea, And we've seen big players expensive players make massive blunders and just bounce back from it like nothing happened. I mean, Alisson was the most expensive goalkeeper for like 3 days. And how many times in his first season did he make mistakes that led straight to goals? I think it was 3, even against Leicester. Yet you never hear about them because he just keeps going forward and proves why he is worth that money and even more. So you just have to hope that Chilwell does have the grit to be able to do so. And I think having been brought up in the English game his whole life, I think he's been exposed to that kind of environment his whole life. So I think that it won't have such a harsh effect on him as it would someone like Morata or Kepa, who have had personal issues going on in their lives and still had an up and down season. So yeah, I think it's ultimately down to the player and their mentality.
Fair enough. I think we've discussed a lot of stuff about Chilwell. I want to get to the nitty gritty of it and finish. Oh yeah, go on, Jay. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but I do want to add on to what Micele said actually, and what Manhandle said about Mendy's price at 52 million. If we pay around that for Chilwell, we're going to get 3 times the amount of games per season.
Yeah.
Mendy's played like 12 games.
Mendy does
When
more.
was the last time he played?
Who knows? No one knows when Mendy plays. It's just I don't really know what
He's
he
gone
does.
so under the radar. I don't know
And
why.
it's only because it's Man City, the money team, that they don't really get it in the neck for that. That has turned out to be a poor signing, even though he has good games, because it is not smart and it's not intelligent to buy someone that's so injury prone.
I reckon Mendy, even in probably FIFA 2020, he probably starts off injured there as well. Like I'm sure the game's got him injured too.
Bro, he's too injury prone, and they do not get it in the neck for that because they do win trophies and they do have a fantastic team, but they've got a left back that they paid a world record fee for at the time for a left back. He's just warming the benches on Twitter all the time.
But he's got a great Twitter account, so who cares?
I love his Twitter.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing. He's a likable guy, so he doesn't get the bad press. Do you know what I mean? And if we were to pay
That's
that price,
that's a great point.
If we were to pay that price for Chilwell, you get 3 times the games per season. You will get more of an output because you play more games. Mendy's good defensively, but he's not outstanding. He's very good going forward, but he's there are mistakes that have been made by other teams, and they don't hear it as much as maybe Chelsea fans would. And there are more Chelsea fans than there are Man City fans, and we do have a more vocal collective on social media and in the stands. That is true, but I really think when you compare it to things like that, and Mendy had one good season at that Monaco side. It's very similar to the Tagliafico at Ajax. He was just younger. Mendy was younger.
And it's hard not to be good in that Ajax team either. I mean, look at Bakayoko.
It's systemic.
We were freaking baited into buying him as well.
Yeah, when you have Ten Hag as your manager, and when you're at Ajax and you grow in a side that's just indoctrinated in a certain philosophy, then and you're in a weaker league and you're the best team in that league, you're probably going to stand out. And there's so many things to consider that it would take us hours to talk about them, so we don't need to get into them. But I really think it's worth looking at how much City paid for Mendy, and then if we pay that for Chilwell, that still gives us, we're still 10 million up on the Morata money.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, no,
it's not coming out of our. It's not. If fans want to make jokes that we're spending lots of money on players, I don't really care.
Yeah,
like, I have no.
Absolutely.
I literally don't care less what Spurs fans have to say or what Arsenal fans have to say about us buying players. It makes no difference. It makes absolutely zero difference, and it's just worth considering that there are so many different aspects of this possible purchase to consider. Stylistically, longevity, even things like language and friendships. That it wouldn't be the most terrible move. In addition to the players we're going to get rid of, the money we're going to receive. If we get Champions League football, we'll have even more money coming into the club. Roman Abramovich is a dodgy guy at best of times, and I don't really like any positive propaganda towards him from me personally, because I just think that's a minefield. But he's still willing to invest in the club. And we've spoken on these podcasts multiple times, especially the three of us. Obviously, it's lovely to have Micele on now. But we've spoken how long, this project is a 4 or 5 year project. And in 4 or 5 years' time, Ben Chilwell is going to be 27, 28. Tagliafico is going to be 31, 32. Telles is going to be 31, 32. There are so many things to consider. And the price is just one thing, but when you compare it against, even Wan-Bissaka had one good season at Palace. Admittedly, his numbers were some of the best in Europe defensively, but 50 million. Benjamin Mendy, 50 million. Walker, 50 million. Lucas Hernandez, 72 million. These have all come from teams that are just below the best teams. Wan-Bissaka Palace may be different, but Lucas Hernandez goes from Atletico, who are very good but not quite elite, to Bayern Munich, who are elite. Benjamin Mendy went from a Monaco side who at the time were very, very good but weren't elite, goes to Man City, who are an elite side. And Chelsea look like in a few years' time we could be back to being one of those elite teams, and Chilwell might just be a little piece of the puzzle that helps on the way.
And at his prime, probably at that age. Now, we've, as I said, talked a lot about Chilwell. Hopefully gave heaps of perspective. I want to end with a question to each one of you guys, and I want to get your final statement on this. I'll go with Johnathan first up. If you were, if you were in charge of doing all the transfers in Chelsea right now, are you picking? Is Ben Chilwell your choice as your left back, or is it someone else? Think about projects. Think about what do you need right now. Do you want to get into the front foot, or do you want to invest on a particular player who's young and sort of mold him into it? So think about all of the things, and then sort of tell me your final statement. Who would be your left back for Chelsea next season?
I've already done an impression of Marina on Twitter, so that's good to know. I think it's difficult because, I say, there's 3 or 4 factors for me. Is Micele going to be our next left back? If so, maybe Chilwell's not the option. Do we want someone that's going to come in right now and improve us and help us get to the next level? Or do we want someone that's going to build with us? Because we've got 6 or 7 players now that are becoming our core, that are growing, that are young, that do need to get that winning mentality, that do need other players around them that are more experienced. So it just depends whether, if we buy a more experienced centre-back, we then buy an experienced winger, experienced striker, you can say that a left-back I'm not saying Chilwell was inexperienced, but a left back that will grow and get better, that's not as much of an option. But if you then buy young players in every other position, and we start 8, 9 every single week of young, inexperienced players, it's a bit tougher to have Chilwell there. So if you take everything into perspective, money, project, future, he's not a bad signing. And I'm not saying I wouldn't take him, because I haven't been pro Chilwell in the past. But taking everything into perspective, I would certainly take him right now, especially if Lampard comes out and says, I want him. Because, we want a manager that has the players that suit his system, that he likes, that he knows that he can get better. And Chilwell will only get better. Will Tagliafico and Telles get a lot better? Maybe not. So I think
take away what Frank wants and what probably the club is thinking from your perspective, from a fan's perspective. What would you like to see? Is Ben Chilwell is what you want to see as well? Is that your answer? Or
I'm happy to have him. He's young, he's English, and he's going to get better. So I would take him. Possibly I'd take Tagliafico just slightly more, just because of his price and the fact that you look at his defensive numbers, 2.5 tackles a game, 1.7 interceptions. I just think that will help us a lot more, because we do need to sort our defence out a little bit more. Not to say Chilwell isn't good. So I think I would take him. Don't care about the money. And if we sign him, I'll be very happy, because as Jay said, it weakens another rival. And Leicester are going to be around that 6 or 7 next season that we need to compete with. And if we can take one of their better players out of the equation, it does help us. So,
okay. I think the message I'm getting from you is that he would, if from a fan's perspective, you probably go towards Tagliafico, but you understand why Chelsea's going towards Chilwell, and you're okay with that. I get that. Micele, I think you've kind of answered initially that Chilwell is probably not your player right now. Is that your standpoint as well for the time being? Like, forget about what Chelsea wants, forget about what Frank's need. I think we understand what's going on. We understand why we're going for Chilwell. But from a fan's perspective, is Chilwell who you want to see starting left back next season?
My biggest issue with this entire transfer area is that there are no risk options. I mean, looking at wingers, Ziyech is a fairly low risk option. And looking anywhere up front, Mertens is a very low risk option. But at left back, there is no low risk option. Telles and Tagliafico look great, but they haven't been picked out of their leagues. They're getting fairly old in football terms. So it's a risk whether they will put up the same numbers in the Premier League. And with Chilwell,
I would say they're at that prime, though. Wouldn't you say they're at that prime, like Telles and Tagliafico? They're 27, 28. I'd say that's prime age.
Yeah, of course. And like I said earlier, that is kind of what I do want. Just kind of get us over this curve of insane transfer numbers. Like, if as soon as the Euros is over and we can see what Chilwell's done in the Champions League and in the Euros, then Tagliafico has already kind of left his mark on the club, and then we can look at Chilwell, in my opinion. And it gives people like Martin an opportunity to grow. It's like 3 years where he can either go on loan or be an understudy to someone like Tagliafico. So, I mean, like Johnathan said, I'd be pretty happy if we got Chilwell, because if I could make if you could create your ideal player right now for who you want Chelsea to buy. We're in a transitional phase, so you want someone who is going to be solid and consistent over a long period of time, so that's one less position we can worry about. Ideally, you want them to be fairly young and used to the league. And obviously, the nation helps. He's already got connections with all of the players, maybe some of the management staff, and he's used to the opposition. So coming up against someone like a fully fit Leroy Sané won't be as much of a shock to the system compared to someone like Telles or Tagliafico, who haven't really even come up against some of Europe's finest. So if I could make my perfect transfer, I'd say Chilwell is almost the closest to that. I mean, if Tagliafico was 24, 25, and we could still get him for around 30 million, then I'd be all over that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Chilwell is almost the less risky investment somehow for 60 million. He's still somehow almost a less risky option.
I think you're probably thinking from the age point of view as well, that he's got that leeway that, we can develop him into a superstar.
You can give him 2 seasons and see what happens. But I mean, if Tagliafico doesn't hit it after 2 seasons, then it's looking pretty grim for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Jay, I want to finish things off with you, but I want to ask you 2 questions here. first of all, before I get to the second one, which is what I've asked the boys, first of all, we haven't really touched this one, so I want to get your thoughts on this. Is it looks like we are about to put all our eggs on Chilwell to be our left back. Yeah, let's assume that Frank is saying, I don't care, get me this man. Where does Martin sort of come into the picture now? Because we've given him a contract as well. And my whole ideology was that, okay, we now get someone who's a bit more experienced, see us this phase. Martin could be the understudy, go on a loan maybe next season, and then after that could be the understudy. But with Chilwell coming into the frame, it feels like all our eggs is on Chilwell to do really well. How do you feel as Martin? Is the first question. And the second question that I want to ask is Chilwell the guy that you get right now from a fan's perspective?
So Maatsen has only just turned 18. So even if Chilwell were to play for 5 seasons at Chelsea, then Maatsen would come in as the age Chilwell would have come in now at 23. That's fine.
But do you think that's going to be fine with Martin, though?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but we don't know how good of a player he is. We hear lots of good things, but do you know what? We hear lots of good things about every single academy player, pretty much, because our academy is really quite good. I think that if you're Maatsen, and I've taken a bit of heat on Twitter for this, but I do maintain that I would like the majority of players really fighting for first team places at Chelsea to go out on loan. I understand that Hudson-Odoi and Gilmour haven't, but maybe they're clearly exceptions. You know, Tammy went on 2-3 loans, Mount went on 2 loans, Tomori went out as well. Reece James went to Wigan. If Maatsen can prove, if he can prove that he's got that ability, then that's fine. But do you know what? If he goes out on 2 loans, absolutely kills it, comes back at age 20, and we've got Chilwell, that just means we've got competition for places, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with having amazing players in the same position, because the best teams do. The best teams do.
Fair point.
Bayern Munich have Luka Hernandez, David Alaba, and Alphonso Davies that can all play in the same.
No one's complaining about them.
and look, and Bayern Munich, they've also got Kimmich, they've got Thiago, they've got Goretzka, they've got Tolisso, that all play Muller, that all play in the central midfield.
Yeah,
that is we should be aiming to be like them, because we have been like them before. And having strength and depth is not an issue. And if Maatsen decides that he doesn't want to compete for his place, then do you know what? That's the mentality of a player that's not aiming to be elite. That is just how it is. This is top level football. This is not anything else. And we're Chelsea Football Club. We should be an elite football club because we have been. And if Maatsen makes Chilwell better, great. If Chilwell makes Maatsen better, great. Then we have 2 great left backs. It's why we need someone to play where Tammy plays as well, because we need someone to push him.
Fantastic point, man. Fantastic.
And so Chilwell for me is a player that maybe we should go for, because he just seems to tick more boxes than the others.
So from a fan's perspective as well, that's taking aside what Frank thinks, what the club thinks, and the project and whatnot. From your perspective, Chilwell is the left back that you're getting.
From my perspective, I want to see an 11-man fluid side. I don't really care about the names in that side, as long as the movement and the way that we play is fluid and consistent. I couldn't care less if Ross Barkley's playing or whoever else is playing. If the movement and if the way that we play and our style is stamped on that game every single time we play. And it won't happen now, it won't happen next season, but it might happen the season after. And it might happen the season after that. If we can move into that direction where you know that you're going to play, that Chelsea are going to play this way, but there's not really much you can do about it. You know that we're going to control the ball. You know that we're going to get men in these areas. You know that you know how we're going to attack, defend, but we're too good for you. We're too good. And Chilwell offers you the chance to have that sort of that club ideology imprinted over a long period of time.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. It's much like how Liverpool are sort of operating at the moment, where everyone knows what they're going to do. Everyone knows what they're going to do, but they're just too good. They're just too good. And
Liverpool, though, if Trent and Robertson are injured, they look so different. Yeah. They do not look like the team they are meant to be. And Trent gives the ball away so often. He
My,
does.
my younger brother, I don't know if I told you guys about it. He's into, like, he was initially into, he's still into journalism. He writes a lot as well for a few publications out there, and yeah, at the moment he's actually an assistant to analyst coach for a second division club here in Australia. So he was telling me the other day, and it was really, really interesting. He goes, Liverpool is probably one of the very few, or maybe the only club at the moment, who've got a playmaker from the right back. Like,
Yeah.
Trent Alexander-Arnold is a playmaker from the right back position. Like, there's a lot of play that happens through him, which is so interesting, because when you think about playmakers, you think about, a midfielder or a attacking midfielder or a deep line midfielder. Yeah, he's a playmaker from the right back. Like,
And
that's
he's
revolutionary.
staying in right back. You look like I've banged on about Bayern Munich, but in my opinion, they're the best team in the world, and also they're the best run club, maybe bar Liverpool. And Kimmich was doing that at right back, but now they've moved him to central midfield because he's so useful to have there. And Trent could do that, but he's just so. Even though he gives the ball away a lot, he just needs to make that one or two pass a game, and that's it. That's curtains.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely
right.
right. Absolutely right. Well, boys, fantastic discussion about Chilwell. I think hopefully after everyone hears this particular episode, they can get a bit more understanding as to why Chilwell probably makes sense. I think I got that impression in our last left back discussion when we talked about a few other left backs, that Chilwell, if you take away the price, is probably not that bad. But now in this discussion that we've just had, probably price is not much of an issue either. And at the end of the day, I think what Micele said stands out a lot as well, that he's probably a very low risk signing for a left back worldwide at the moment, and someone who has the balance of attack and defense and could develop into a far greater player as well. So, boys, thank you heaps for joining me and this channel and having this discussion about Ben Chilwell, and hopefully people can get a bit more out of it. So until next time, everyone, see ya.